One for you here. This is from AHS Politics via YouTube. How long is Keir Starmer's honeymoon period expected to last? Could it last beyond the next election of the Conservative leader? Or the election of the next Conservative leader, even.
I really like this question because it gets me into sort of proper essay question mode, which is, what do you mean by a honeymoon period? Like, do you mean a honeymoon period from the media? I don't think Keir Starmer has actually necessarily had a honeymoon period from the media, or certainly the right-wing papers that didn't like him very much, still don't like him very much. There was a Daily Mail article a couple of days ago about, for example, Labour's planning reform plans, warning its readers that if you live next to a golf course or a disused car park, they're building houses on your area. And I just sort of looked at that and was like, I don't really see that as, the Daily Mail giving Starmer a honeymoon period. So, that's one thing. One is a honeymoon period kind of from his own MPs. And I think that's really interesting because Labour has now over 400 MPs all over the country, very diverse in terms of constituencies, very diverse in terms of demographics and sort of voter priorities. Keir Starmer can't deal with party management by putting all of them in the government because he doesn't have enough jobs for everyone. So that issue of party discipline is going to be a key one. We've talked about it before, and we've already seen the beginnings of an area of tension emerging when it comes to the two-child benefit cap, which a lot of Labour MPs and a lot of politicians from other parties, the SNP, and also including a couple of Conservatives.
Yeah, like ex-MPs. I mean, Miriam Cates is very vocal on this, isn't she?
And Suella Braverman, although I noticed that neither of them were actually that vocal on it when it was their party that was in government. I think
Miriam Cates was, from memory. But yeah, they're in the minority in their party for sure.
I'm not sure Suella Braverman was, but maybe I'm being unfair to Miriam Cates. Anyway, that is an issue that Labour are aware that is sort of hugely contentious if one of their aims is to bring down child poverty, and they are getting a pushback from their own MPs on that, and they've now announced a task force to look into it. So if you're asking there, how long before you start seeing robust debates within the Parliamentary Labour Party, you've already got it. I think, though, what it is that this person is asking is, are we going to see a return to the chaos and the infighting that has plagued recent Conservative prime ministers? And that's why the question about could Keir Starmer's honeymoon period extend past the point of appointing a new Conservative leader. And I think it probably could, because I just don't see the Conservative Party getting their act together in that short a time. They've got a huge amount of uphill work to do. They've got to figure out the terms of this leadership contest, which we don't actually know when it's going to be. They don't have any money. The contenders, or the people who are likely to be contenders, are all people who are in some way tarnished with one of the previous administrations, whether it's Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak or Boris Johnson. There's a real scarcity of
I guess
ideas.
Not really.
No,
he was a minister, but
he was a minister. Okay, so possibly Tugendhat, but he's also really not liked by the right of the party, who think that the whole problem was that they didn't go far enough. And I just think that for the honeymoon period for Keir Starmer to end in that way, you'd need to see a government in waiting from the Conservative Party, and I don't think we're going to get that for at least a couple of years, and maybe one or two leaders.
Very comprehensive, thank you.
And then a fun one to end on, Darth Wilkins via YouTube. Hannah, has anything shocked or surprised you about the early Starmer government?
Two things have surprised me, but in a pleasantly surprised way. One is just how they just seem like a government straight away. It's been smooth, it's been professional. Keir Starmer looks like a prime minister. I mean, they all look like they've been doing the job for ages. The cabinet looks professional. And the other thing that did surprise me, but again, I thought it was really interesting and grown up, was the appointment of non-politicians to really important policy briefs. So Patrick Vallance,
Science Minister, obviously key role during the COVID pandemic. And of course, we've talked about it quite a lot, James Timpson to the Prisons Minister role. And Richard
That was-
Hammer, as well as
Absolutely.
Attorney General, getting somebody into that role who is a prominent legal expert, putting them in the House of Lords rather than trying to make that selection within MPs.
Yeah, I mean, those did surprise me, but in a good way. What about you? Anything shocked or surprised?
So actually the process of Parliament getting completely overhauled, that was quite startling to watch and be part of, and to be in Parliament the last week, because we haven't seen it since 2010, and I wasn't doing this job in 2010. We've had elections since then, but the churn hasn't been anywhere near the level that it is. Over half of MPs now are new MPs, and seeing that in action, it really is quite an eye-opening experience, because you've got all of these new MPs, they're hot desking, they don't have offices yet, they don't know what the Wi-Fi password is, they don't know their way around, because Parliament is this really labyrinthine building, and it's got a real energy of sort of change, and it sounds a bit sort of cliche and sappy to say it, but you really can feel it. And I think the way Britain does our elections, where you've got a new prime minister on day one and you've got new MPs in on the Monday, not every country does that, and you can feel the change in the sort of new people coming in, and obviously a lot of Conservatives hanging around with cardboard boxes, clearing out their offices as well. So that has surprised me, just because I haven't experienced it before. Another thing that really has surprised me, and this is not about Starmer's government, it's actually about Rishi Sunak, is that Rishi Sunak is quite a good leader of the opposition. I feel like he has, found his calling, I guess. And I'm not going to sort of gloss over how awful he was, I think, as a party leader during the election. But the speech that he made in response to Keir Starmer's King's Speech, it was witty, it was gracious. He sort of joked, he had this sort of comment about how he was talking to backbench MPs, new MPs, and saying, be careful, because, before you know it, you're going to be, you might end up being Prime Minister, and then suddenly it's all gone wrong. I haven't seen him that sort of relaxed and eloquent.
He does seem a man unleashed, but maybe that's because he knows the end is in sight.
I
But
just think
he's been very impressive.
He's having a wonderful time. So yeah, that has surprised me.